My name is Grace Hartley, 28. The second the doctor said medically induced coma, my brother Bryce glared at our mother with tubes down her throat and snarled, "She's been a worthless liar her whole damn life. I'm not wasting another second pretending I care. Let her die alone." He stormed out of the ICU. I stayed, grabbed her hand, felt a small worn cloth pouch in her coat pocket. Inside, a brass key marked Box 156. Two names I'd never heard, Andrew and Catherine Brennan, and her shaky note. "Grace, if I don't wake up, use the key. Find the Brennans. They know the truth about who you really are." That note didn't break me. It lit a fire. And what I discovered next would burn my entire life to the ground. Before we go any further, please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. If you're listening to this while driving, cooking dinner, or lying in bed trying to fall asleep, drop a comment and let me know where you are right now. Because what I'm about to tell you is going to make you question everything you know about family. The nurse who'd been adjusting Mom's IV tube froze when Bryce said those words. She stared at him like he'd just slapped a woman in a coma. He didn't even notice. He was already halfway to the door, phone in hand, typing something as he walked. I called after him. "Bryce, wait." He didn't turn around, didn't slow down, just gone. That was March 5th, 2026. 3 hours earlier, someone had cut a small hole in my mother's brake line. By the time she got on the highway, there wasn't enough fluid left to stop the car. She'd crashed into a concrete barrier at 50 miles per hour. Severe traumatic brain injury. The doctors had induced the coma to reduce brain swelling. They said the next 72 hours would determine if she'd ever wake up. And my brother, the person I'd shared a house with for 18 years, had just told her to die alone. I sat in that plastic chair beside her hospital bed and tried to understand. Tried to find a reason that would make sense. But there wasn't one. So I did what I always do when I don't know what else to do. I held her hand. That's when I felt it. Something hard in the inner pocket of her brown wool coat. The coat she'd been wearing when the paramedics pulled her from the wreckage. I reached in and pulled out a small cloth pouch. Hand-stitched. Blue-gray fabric. It smelled faintly like the lavender sachets Mom kept in her dresser drawers. But when I opened it, there was no lavender inside. There was a brass key with Box 156 engraved on the head. A piece of folded paper with two names written in Mom's careful handwriting, and a note on a torn piece of notebook paper. The edges frayed like she'd ripped it in a hurry. The names meant nothing to me. Andrew Brennan, Catherine Brennan. Below them, she'd written, Boston General Hospital, April 15th, 1998. My birthday, the day I was born. But it was the note that stopped my heart. "Grace, if I don't wake up, use the key. Find the Brennans. They know the truth about who you really are." I read it 3 times. 4 times. The truth about who I really am? What did that mean? I was Grace Hartley, daughter of Kenneth and Patricia Hartley, born April 15th, 1998 in Boston. Moved to Portland, Maine when I was 14 months old. 28 years of birthday parties and scraped knees and family dinners. 28 years of being exactly who I thought I was. Except my mother was saying maybe I wasn't. I tried calling Bryce 4 times in the first hour. Every call went straight to voicemail. Not declined, not busy. Straight to voicemail like he'd turned his phone off the second he left the building. Or blocked me. The machines beeped. Mom's chest rose and fell with the ventilator. I sat there in that fluorescent-lit room and stared at the note in my mother's handwriting, dated February 28th, 2026. 1 week before someone tried to kill her. She'd known she was in danger, and she'd prepared this pouch as insurance. I looked at her hands resting on the white hospital blanket. That's when I noticed the bruises. Small purple marks on her left wrist, shaped like fingerprints. Someone had grabbed her. hard. This wasn't just a car accident. 2 hours later, a detective arrived. Detective James Wellington, Boston Police. Mid-40s, gray hair, tired eyes. He pulled up a chair and showed me photos on his tablet. My mother's car, the undercarriage, the brake line. Your mother's brake line had a small puncture here, he pointed. Not a cut, a puncture, made with something thin and sharp. The brake fluid leaked slowly over 3 days. By the time she hit the highway, there wasn't enough left to stop the car. This wasn't road damage, Miss Hartley. This was deliberate. He gave me a case number. 2026-0315-ATH, attempted homicide. He asked if my mother had any enemies. Anyone who'd want her dead. I thought about Bryce's words. Worthless liar. I thought about how he'd walked out without looking back. I thought about the pouch in my mother's coat, and the note that said someone knew the truth about who I really was. I don't know, I told Wellington. But I'm going to find out. 6 hours into my vigil, Bryce finally texted. Not, how is she? Not, is she going to make it? Just, let me know when she's gone. I'll handle funeral arrangements. Like he was waiting for a package delivery update. I screenshot the message, saved it. Something in my gut told me to document everything Bryce said from that moment forward. I texted back. She's not going to die. He read it. Blue checkmark. Didn't respond. At hour 8, I picked up Mom's coat to fold it properly. That's when I looked at the pouch again. Really looked at it. The stitching was old, but careful. The kind of work that takes time. Mom had made this, and she'd been carrying it with her. Prepared. I pulled out my phone and Googled the first name. Andrew Brennan, Boston. The first result was an obituary from the Boston Globe. August 2020. Andrew James Brennan, 68, of Beacon Hill, passed away peacefully after a battle with pancreatic cancer. Founder and CEO of Brennan Properties, one of New England's premier commercial real estate firms. Survived by wife Catherine Brennan and daughter Olivia Brennan. His estate, valued at approximately $350 million, will be distributed to his biological children only, as specified in his 2019 will. I read that line 5 times. Biological children only. Andrew Brennan had died 6 years ago. He'd left $350 million, and he'd specified it had to go to his biological children. Like he knew there might be confusion about who his real kids were. I searched for Catherine Brennan next. Boston socialite, philanthropist, board member at Boston Children's Hospital, the Museum of Fine Arts, the Symphony. Boston Magazine called her the Queen of Beacon Hill Philanthropy. She looked exactly like old money. Pearls, perfectly styled gray hair, seated at a charity gala, smiling for the camera. Then I found Olivia Brennan, 28 years old, same age as me, Instagram influencer with 15,000 followers, photos from Paris, Santorini, Aspen, designer clothes, yacht parties. Her bio said, living my truth heiress, philanthropist, gratitude activist. I scrolled through her posts until I found one from April 2024. A birthday cake with candles. Caption, Happy 26th birthday to me, born April 15th, 1998. April 15th, 1998. The same day, the same hospital. 2 baby girls born within hours of each other. And my mother's note. They know the truth about who you really are. My stomach dropped. I knew what she was saying. I just didn't want to believe it. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Why we'd left Boston when I was so young. Why there were no baby photos of me before 15 months old. Why Mom always got tense when anyone mentioned the city. Why Dad changed the subject any time I asked about our old life there. Fresh start, they'd always said. But maybe it wasn't a fresh start. Maybe it was running. I need to tell you something about my family before I go any further, because you need to understand what we were before everything fell apart. Kenneth and Patricia Hartley. My parents. Dad was an electrician, union trade, good benefits, steady work. Mom was an elementary school teacher, 3rd grade. She had a classroom full of pictures her students drew, and she kept every single one. They weren't rich. We lived in a 3-bedroom ranch in Portland with vinyl siding and a yard just big enough for a vegetable garden Mom could never quite keep alive. Bryce and I grew up in that house. He's 4 years older than me. Blonde hair, blue eyes, tall. Looked exactly like Dad. I was the opposite. Dark hair, dark eyes, short. People used to say, "Bryce got all the Hartley genes." And they'd laugh. I'd laugh too. But I always wondered why I was so different. Mom would say I took after her grandmother. But I never met that grandmother. Never saw photos of her either. Bryce always got the better deal. Full ride to UMass courtesy of Dad's college fund. Brand new Honda at 17. When I asked for help with community college tuition, Dad said they were stretched thin. So I worked 3 jobs and took out loans, graduated with $40,000 in debt, and became a freelance graphic designer, which is just a nice way of saying I hustle for rent money every single month. But here's the thing I didn't realize until Mom was lying in that hospital bed. Bryce wasn't just Dad's favorite. He was cold, distant. He treated me like I was a house guest who'd overstayed my welcome. Not cruel exactly, just absent. Like I didn't quite belong. I remember when I was 12, we did a genetics project in school. I learned that brown eyes were recessive. You needed both parents to carry the gene. But Dad had blue eyes. Mom had green. My teacher said sometimes it skips generations. But when I asked Bryce about it that night at dinner, he laughed and said, "Maybe you're adopted." Mom got upset, sent him to his room. I thought she was just being protective. Now I wonder if he already knew something I didn't. Our family moved from Boston to Portland in June 1999. I was 14 months old. There are no photos of me before that. None. Every other baby has a million pictures. But our family album starts in July 1999, and I'm already walking, already past the baby stage. When I asked Mom why once, she said they lost the photos in the move. But everything else survived just fine. Dad died 9 months ago, June 15th, 2024. Cardiac arrest at a job site. He collapsed in an electrical room while rewiring an old building in South Portland. His coworker Trevor found him. Paramedics said he was already gone. The medical examiner ruled it natural causes. Heart attack, 56 years old. Family history of heart disease. Mom never believed it. She kept saying, "Your father's heart was fine. He had a physical 3 months before. Clean bill of health." After Dad died, Mom changed. She installed security cameras, changed all the locks, started writing everything down by hand instead of using email. She bought a small safe and hid it in her bedroom closet. Never told me the combination. Just said, "If I'm ever gone, you'll find a way in." I thought she was grieving, paranoid from the shock of losing Dad. I didn't understand she was preparing. And Bryce, 4 months after Dad died, October 2024, Bryce changed too. He stopped coming home for visits, stopped answering Mom's calls. When he finally came up to Portland that month, he showed up in a brand new Audi A6, $65,000 car. He said it was a promotion bonus from the hospital where he worked, Boston General. He was a hospital administrator there. I believed him. I had no reason not to. But I remember something else about that visit. Something I didn't think about until Mom was in the ICU with a punctured brake line and Bryce was telling her to die alone. 2 weeks before Mom's accident in mid-February, she told me something. We were having coffee in her kitchen and she grabbed my hand across the table. Grace, she said, if anything happens to me, look in my coat. The brown one. I'll leave you instructions. I'd laughed nervously. Mom, nothing's going to happen to you. She didn't laugh back. She just squeezed my hand and said, Promise me. I promised. And she'd kept her word. She'd left me instructions. A key. 2 names. And a note that said, the Brennans knew the truth about who I really was. I need you to understand something. I didn't want to believe what I was starting to piece together. I wanted there to be another explanation. Something simple. Something that didn't mean my entire life was a lie. But 2 days after Mom's accident, I got a package. Freedom of Information Act request I'd filed. Dad's autopsy report from June 2024. I sat in my apartment and read it line by line. Cause of death. Cardiac arrest due to myocardial infarction. But buried in the blood work section, one line, potassium level 6.2 milliequivalents per liter. Normal range 3.5 to 5.0. Attributed to post-mortem cellular breakdown. I Googled elevated potassium murder. First result, potassium chloride injection mimics heart attack, nearly undetectable if administered correctly. The autopsy also noted a small puncture wound on Dad's left inner elbow, consistent with attempted IV placement by paramedics. But I called the paramedics. They said they never placed an IV. Dad was already dead when they arrived. Someone had given my father an injection that stopped his heart, and the medical examiner had missed it. The next day, I drove to South Portland and met with Trevor, Dad's co-worker, the one who'd found him. We sat in a diner, and Trevor's hands shook as he stirred his coffee. Your dad was investigating something, Grace, he said. He wouldn't tell me details, but I know it was about hospital records from 1998. He kept saying, if I can prove this, it changes everything. And he made me promise something. He said, if anything happened to him, I should tell your mom to check box 156 at First Massachusetts Bank. Tell her. He left proof. Trevor gave me a small notebook he'd found in Dad's truck after he died. Inside were handwritten notes. Boston General, April 15th, 1998. 2 babies. Same day. Nurse Helen Cooper, retired 2010. Dr. Judith Caldwell, OBGYN. And on the last page, met with investigator today, says he can help find the truth. His name is Gerald Hoffman. Below that, in Dad's handwriting, dated June 13th, 2024. Meeting Gerald tomorrow, hospital basement. Something feels off. He asked too many questions about Patricia and Bryce. Pray I'm wrong. One more entry, June 13th, late at night. Gerald called, changed meeting location to hospital, says his source only talks on site. Meeting him Tuesday 3 p.m. If you're reading this and I'm gone, it was a trap. Gerald Hoffman works for them. Dad died June 15th, 2024. 2 days after he wrote that. I checked Mom's phone next. The police had returned her personal belongings. In her photos, I found a folder labeled Evidence. 18 photos taken between December 2024 and February 2026. Photos of a black SUV parked outside our house, the same SUV at the grocery store, at her school. Always the same Massachusetts license plate. I ran it through a public database, registered to Blackstone Security Services Boston. I called the number. Disconnected. In one photo, taken in January, I could see the driver through the windshield. A man. Late 30s, maybe 40. Dark jacket. Sunglasses. Professional. And in another photo from February 10th, the black SUV was parked outside Portland Hospital. In the background, barely visible, was a silver Audi. Bryce's Audi. He'd been there. Watching whoever was watching Mom. That's when I made the decision. I was going to Boston. I was going to open box 156. And I was going to find out what my parents, Kenneth and Patricia Hartley had been trying to protect me from. March 7th, 2026. I drove south on I-95, Portland to Boston. 105 miles, 2 hours. I didn't listen to music. Didn't turn on the radio. Just the sound of tires on asphalt and my own thoughts circling. By the time I crossed into Massachusetts, I'd made peace with one thing. Whatever was in that safety deposit box, I was ready. Even if it destroyed me. I parked outside First Massachusetts Bank at 10:22 a.m. Financial District, glass and steel, old money and new tech. I walked in with the brass key in my pocket and my mother's note folded in my wallet. The bank associate led me to a private viewing room. Small, windowless, a table and 2 chairs. She brought in box 156 and set it on the table. Told me to take my time. Then she left and closed the door. I opened the box. Inside were 7 items. A sealed envelope marked DNA Results, Private Lab, June 2024. A folder of hospital records. A handwritten letter on lined paper. A small plastic bag containing a baby hospital bracelet. A USB drive with a label that said, "For Grace, watch first." A copy of a legal document, a will, and a private investigator's report. I picked up the USB drive first. There were 2 video files. I plugged it into my laptop, clicked the first one. 1_message_ for _grace.mp4. My father's face filled the screen. He was sitting in our garage. I recognized the workbench behind him. The video was dated June 12, 2024, 3 days before he died. "Gracie," he said. His voice was steady, but I could see the fear in his eyes. "If you're watching this, I'm gone. I'm recording this because I'm meeting someone tomorrow who might be trying to kill me." 2 months ago, a private investigator named Gerald Hoffman contacted me. He said he'd been hired to find information about a Grace Brennan, not Grace Hartley. He showed me evidence. DNA results. Hospital records from 1998. And I realized what had happened. Dad leaned closer to the camera. "You were switched at birth, honey. On April 15th, 1998, at Boston General Hospital, a nurse named Helen Cooper switched you with another baby girl. We raised you. Andrew and Catherine Brennan raised our biological daughter. Her name is Olivia. Andrew Brennan died in 2020. He left $350 million to his biological children only. Catherine and Olivia know you're the real heir, and they're willing to kill to keep you from finding out." He paused, took a breath. "Tomorrow I'm meeting with Gerald Hoffman at the hospital. He says he has proof, but something doesn't feel right about him. If I'm wrong, and he's legitimate, he'll help us expose the truth. If I'm right, and he's working for Catherine Brennan, then by the time you're watching this, I'll probably be dead." Dad picked up something off the table. My baby photo, the one Mom kept on her dresser. 6 months old. Tiny. Smiling. "This is you at 6 months," he said, his voice breaking just slightly. "This is the moment I knew I'd die for you. You are my daughter, Gracie. Biology doesn't change that. It never could. Take care of Mom, and make them pay for what they did to us." The video ended. I sat in that windowless room and cried, not loud, not dramatic. Just quiet tears running down my face while I stared at the frozen image of my father holding my baby photo. He'd known he was going to die. He'd known, and he'd recorded this message to make sure I'd have answers. I clicked the second video file. 2_Hoffman_Brennan_meeting.mp4. This one was different. Hidden camera footage, a restaurant, high-end, white tablecloths, wine glasses. The angle was low, like the camera was hidden in a briefcase. The timestamp said October 3rd, 2024, 7:43 p.m. 3 people sat at a corner table. A woman in her 60s. Elegant, gray hair, pearls. Catherine Brennan, a man in his late 30s. Dark jacket, the same man from Mom's surveillance photos. Gerald Hoffman and Bryce. My brother Bryce Hartley, sitting at a table with Catherine Brennan and the man who'd killed our father. The audio was clear. Catherine's voice. Kenneth Hartley discovered the hospital switch. He has evidence, hospital records, DNA results. He's preparing to expose everything. If Grace Hartley claims her inheritance as Andrew's biological daughter, Olivia gets nothing. We cannot let that happen. Bryce. What do you need from me? Catherine. Access. Your father is meeting Gerald at Boston General in June. You'll arrange it. Make sure Kenneth goes to the right location. Gerald will handle the rest. It needs to look like cardiac arrest. Natural causes. Bryce. And the payment? Catherine. $250,000 upon completion. Another $250,000 after Patricia is handled. Bryce. And Grace? Catherine. We'll deal with Grace if she becomes a problem. For now, eliminate the parents. That's phase 1. Bryce smiled. Actually smiled. Consider it done. They shook hands. I watched my brother, the person I'd lived with for 18 years, agree to murder our father for money. I watched him shake Catherine Brennan's hand. I watched him nod when she talked about handling our mother. And something inside me went very cold and very clear. I opened the DNA results next. GenePath Labs, dated June 6, 2024. Test 1. Grace Hartley versus Kenneth Thomas Hartley. Paternity probability, 0%. Test 2. Grace Hartley versus Patricia Ann Hartley. Maternity probability, 0%. Conclusion. Grace Hartley is not the biological child of Kenneth and Patricia Hartley. At the bottom, in Dad's handwriting, this changes nothing. She's mine. I picked up the hospital records. Boston General Hospital, Labor and Delivery, April 15, 1998. 6:43 a.m., room 304. Patricia Hartley delivers baby girl. 7 pounds 2 ounces. Bracelet ID, BG-HTL-0415-A. Attending physician, Dr. Judith Caldwell. Nurse, Helen Cooper. 6:51 a.m., room 306. Catherine Brennan delivers baby girl. 7 pounds 4 ounces. Bracelet ID, BG-BRN-0415-B. Attending physician, Dr. Judith Caldwell. Nurse, Helen Cooper. 2 babies, 8 minutes apart, same nurse. Attached to the records was an incident log, stamped 7:15 a.m. Possible bracelet irregularity flagged by Dr. Caldwell. Nurse Cooper verified tags correct. Incident resolved. The hospital had noticed something was wrong, and Helen Cooper had lied. I opened her letter next. Handwritten. Dated May 18, 2024. My name is Helen Cooper. I am 74 years old. I worked as a labor and delivery nurse at Boston General from 1985 to 2010. On April 15, 1998, I deliberately switched 2 infant girls as revenge against Andrew Brennan, who had refused to loan me money to save my house from foreclosure 3 months prior. I was angry, petty, cruel. I put the Brennan bracelet on the Hartley baby and the Hartley bracelet on the Brennan baby. I have carried this guilt for 26 years. When Andrew Brennan died in 2020 and I learned his will left $350 million to biological children only, I realized my act of revenge would now destroy lives. I am willing to testify. I have kept my hospital ID badge and records as proof. I am deeply sorry. Helen Cooper, RN, retired. She'd switched us out of spite. Because a wealthy man wouldn't bail her out of debt. And 4 people had spent 28 years raising children who weren't biologically theirs, all because of one nurse's anger. The last document was Andrew Brennan's will. dated January 14th, 2019, 18 months before he died. The relevant section was highlighted. My entire estate, currently valued at approximately $350 million, shall be distributed only to my biological children, as confirmed by DNA testing against my genetic sample stored at GenePath Labs. I have reason to believe medical errors at the time of my daughter's birth may have caused identity confusion. Therefore, any individual claiming to be my biological heir must submit to DNA testing. Any person found to be biologically my child shall inherit my estate. Any person found not to be biologically my child shall receive a one-time payment of $2 million, but shall have no further claim. Andrew Brennan had suspected. He hadn't known for sure, but he'd suspected something was wrong at that hospital. So he'd changed his will to make sure his real biological child, whoever that was, would inherit. Catherine and Olivia must have known about this clause. They'd known for years. And they'd known that if I ever took a DNA test and proved I was Andrew's biological daughter, they'd lose everything. So they'd decided to make sure I never found out. I sat in that bank viewing room for 2 hours, going through every document, every photo, every piece of evidence my father had collected before they killed him. By the time I left, I knew exactly what I had to do. That night, I checked into a budget hotel in Boston, Googled Catherine Brennan, found her charity events, her board positions, her Instagram posts about philanthropy and community service, Googled Olivia Brennan, found her influencer lifestyle, Paris vacations, designer clothes, yacht parties, a post from March 1st, 2026. 4 days before Mom's accident, showed her at brunch with Catherine. Caption: Sunday brunch with Mom, #family, #blessed. I found another post from February 20th. Olivia at a shooting range, holding a Glock, professional stance. Caption: New hobby, precision matters. Thanks Mom for the lessons. Catherine had commented, so proud of you, sweetheart. This wasn't a new hobby. Olivia had been trained, and I was willing to bet she'd been the one following Mom with that black SUV. I kept digging, found photos from hospital events, Catherine accepting awards, Olivia posing at galas, and there, in the background of a photo from October 15th, 2024, partially visible, Bryce Hartley in a suit, hospital administrator badge on his lapel. The caption: Boston General honors Catherine Brennan for $5 million endowment. Hospital Administrator Bryce Hartley presents award. They'd been working together since October. That's when Catherine had recruited him. That's when he'd gotten the first payment. That's when he'd shown up with the Audi. I found one more photo. January 12th, 2026. Hospital gala. Catherine, Olivia, and Bryce together. Bryce had his arm around Olivia's shoulder. All three of them laughing. My brother had chosen his side, and it wasn't ours. March 8th, 2026. I discovered Catherine was hosting a charity gala that night. Four Seasons Hotel. Pediatric Cancer Research Benefit. $1,000 per plate. I didn't have $1,000. So I did what any desperate person would do. I borrowed a black dress from a consignment shop, photoshopped a ticket, and walked into that ballroom like I belonged there. Security barely glanced at my printed ticket. I was in. 300 guests, champagne, string quartet, silent auction items worth more than my annual income. This was Catherine's world. Old Boston money, polished, perfect, untouchable. I spotted her across the room. Silver gown, diamond necklace, surrounded by people laughing at whatever story she was telling. The gracious philanthropist, the queen of Beacon Hill, the woman who'd ordered my father's murder. Then I saw Olivia, scrolling through her phone near the bar. Designer dress, bored expression, waiting for this charity event to be over so she could go back to her real life, the one funded by money that should have been mine. And then I saw Bryce, My brother. In an expensive suit I knew he couldn't afford on a hospital administrator's salary. Laughing with Catherine and Olivia like they were old friends. Like he belonged with them. Like he'd never had a family in Portland at all. I followed Olivia when she headed toward the restroom. Waited until we were alone. "Olivia Brennan?" She turned. Evaluated my dress with one quick glance. Not designer, not expensive. "Do I know you?" "Not yet. My name is Grace Hartley." Her face went cold. She recovered quickly, but I'd seen it. The flash of recognition. The calculation. Should that mean something to me? April 15th, 1998. Boston General Hospital. Helen Cooper switched us at birth. Olivia stepped closer. Her voice dropped to something quiet and dangerous. "Careful, you're making serious accusations. I have DNA results, hospital records, my father's video testimony. I know everything, including that you and your mother killed him." Olivia smiled. It was the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen. "Your father? You mean Kenneth Hartley? The electrician who couldn't mind his own business? He made a choice. So did your mother. And if you keep talking, you'll make the same choice." "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact. Walk away now, Grace. Or you'll end up like your father. We have resources you can't imagine. Lawyers, connections, people like Gerald Hoffman who make problems disappear. And in case you're wondering, Bryce chose his real family, the one that pays him what he's worth. You're alone. Completely alone. I'm not afraid of you." Olivia leaned in, whispered, "You should be. By the way, your mother's accident? That was just the beginning. If she wakes up, we'll finish the job." She walked out. I stood there in that bathroom, hands shaking, and pulled out my phone. I'd been recording the entire conversation. Every word. Every threat. I returned to the ballroom. Catherine, Olivia, and Bryce were standing together now. All three of them. They turned, stared at me across the room. Catherine whispered something. Bryce nodded. A man appeared behind me. Dark jacket. The same face from Mom's surveillance photos. Gerald Hoffman. "Miss Hartley," he said quietly. "Mrs. Brennan asks that you leave. You're not on the guest list." I turned to face him. "I know who you are, Gerald. You killed my father." He didn't deny it. "Your father made poor decisions. So is your mother, frankly. Accidents happen to people who don't know when to stop digging. You cut her brake lines." He smiled. "Prove it. And while you're at it, consider what happens to freelance graphic designers who can't pay rent if they spend all their time chasing conspiracy theories. Boston's an expensive city. Accidents happen here too. I'm not backing down." "Then you're as stupid as your father was." Hoffman escorted me out of the hotel, made sure I got in my car, and drove away. But he'd made a mistake. He'd confirmed everything. And I'd recorded that too. I drove straight to Boston Police Headquarters, asked for the detective handling my mother's case. Detective James Wellington met me in an interview room at 11 p.m. I showed him everything. Kenneth's video, the hidden camera footage from the restaurant, Helen Cooper's confession, the hospital records, the DNA results, Andrew Brennan's will, the recordings I'd made of Olivia and Hoffman. Wellington listened to all of it, didn't interrupt, didn't dismiss me. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, "Miss Hartley, what you've brought me is enough to reopen your father's death as a homicide investigation, and potentially charge Catherine Brennan and her associates with conspiracy to commit murder." He arranged for me to stay in a safe house hotel, police protection. "Catherine Brennan has money and connections," he said. "Until we build an airtight case, you're a target." The next morning, Wellington showed me something else. Security footage from Boston General Hospital, June 13th, 2024. The day my father died. 2:47 p.m., Bryce Hartley uses his administrator keycard to unlock an electrical room in the basement. He goes in, comes out 90 seconds later. Props the door open with a small wedge, 3:02 p.m. Kenneth Hartley enters the electrical room. 3:04 p.m. Gerald Hoffman enters. 3:37 p.m. Gerald Hoffman exits. Removes the wedge. Lets the door lock behind him. 4:15 p.m. Trevor discovers Kenneth's body. My brother had unlocked that door. Had left it open. Had walked away knowing Dad was about to die. Wellington showed me more. Hospital records indicating Bryce's keycard had also accessed the pharmacy storage room on March 1, 2024. Potassium chloride vials went missing that day. Never reported. We've been building a case against Hoffman for months, Wellington said. But we didn't know about your brother until now. They brought in a forensic pathologist to review Dad's autopsy. With the new context, the elevated potassium, the puncture wound, the missing vials, the pathologist confirmed it. Potassium chloride injection, cardiac arrest, murder. The FBI got involved. Interstate murder, wire fraud, conspiracy. They traced Catherine's payments to Bryce, 2 wire transfers. June 17, 2024, $250,000. March 7, 2026, $250,000. Plus a $50,000 cash payment in October 2024, captured on security footage from the hospital gala. Total, $550,000. That's what Bryce had sold our family for. March 10, 2026. The FBI wanted me to confront Bryce, get him on tape. Agent Torres fitted me with a wire, microphone under my shirt, transmitter on my waistband. Just get him talking, Torres said. If he confesses, we have him. If he tries to threaten you, say the word lighthouse and we breach immediately. I texted Bryce. We need to talk about Dad, about Mom, about the Brennans. I know everything. He responded in 3 minutes. My apartment, 7 p.m., come alone. I showed up at 7. Bryce opened the door, looked at me like I was a problem he needed to solve. What do you want, Grace? I want to understand why you called Mom a worthless liar, why you walked out of her ICU room and told her to die alone. Because she is a liar. She's kept secrets for 28 years. Secrets about me? He paused. You already know, don't you? That's why you're here. I know about the switch. I know I'm not Mom and Dad's biological daughter. I know about the Brennans. Then you know why this is complicated. Complicated? Dad is dead, Bryce. Mom is in a coma. Someone murdered them. His face went cold. Dad should have left it alone. Left what alone? The investigation, the hospital records, the Brennans. He was obsessed. He wouldn't stop, and it was going to destroy everything. Everything? Or your payout from Catherine Brennan? I don't know what you're talking about. October 2024. Catherine approached you. Offered you money. You said yes. Prove it. I have Dad's video. The hidden camera footage from the restaurant. October 3rd. You, Catherine, and Gerald Hoffman planning Dad's murder. Bryce's expression hardened. That video means nothing. It means you killed our father for $500,000. He exploded. He wasn't my father. He was yours. I'm the biological son. You're the mistake. I let him keep going. The FBI was listening to every word. Yeah, Grace. You want the truth? Mom and Dad knew something was off years ago. They did a DNA test when I was 14. Turns out I was their biological kid. You weren't. But they never told you because they loved you and didn't want to hurt you. Meanwhile, I watched them pour everything into protecting you while I got treated like the problem. So when Catherine offered me money to help clean up Dad's mess, I took it. And I'd do it again. You helped murder Dad. I gave Hoffman access to a room. What happened after that wasn't my problem. And Mom? You told Catherine when she found out the truth? Mom was going to expose everything. Cost me my payout. So yes, I told Catherine, and yes, Hoffman handled it. But she survived. So that's on him. You tried to kill our mother. She's not my mother, she's yours. And you know what? I'm not sorry, Grace. Dad was going to ruin everything. Mom wouldn't shut up. And you? You don't deserve $350 million. You're not even a real Brennan. You're just some mistake that should have stayed hidden. I stood up. You're done, Bryce. He laughed. You think you can touch me? Catherine's lawyers will bury you. I walked to the door, opened it. FBI agents rushed in. Bryce Hartley, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, accessory to murder, and obstruction of justice. Bryce's face went white. What? You wore a wire, he said to me as they cuffed him. You bitch. Dad taught me to be prepared. You should have remembered that. They took him away. March 11th, 2026. I met with Benjamin Cross, attorney, executor of Andrew Brennan's estate. He'd been Andrew's personal lawyer for 20 years, and he'd been waiting for someone like me to show up. Mr. Brennan suspected the truth before he died, Cross said. That's why he changed his will. He stored a DNA sample at GenePath Labs specifically for this moment. I submitted my DNA for testing. Cheek swab. Simple. Results in 5 business days. While I waited, the FBI built the case. Detective Wellington coordinated with the DA. They prepared arrest warrants for Catherine, Olivia, and Gerald Hoffman. They'd found Hoffman on March 17th, hiding in a motel in New Hampshire. Tried to run. Got caught after a brief chase. Now all 3 conspirators were in custody awaiting trial. March 18th, 2026, 3:47 p.m., the email arrived from GenePath Labs, DNA paternity analysis results. Test. Grace Hartley versus Andrew James Brennan. Deceased sample. Paternity. Probability. 99.99% combined paternity index. 3,847,291 to 1. Conclusion. Andrew James Brennan is the biological father of Grace Hartley. I stared at that number. 99.99%. Not maybe. Not probably. Definitive. Andrew Brennan was my biological father. Catherine Brennan was my biological mother. I was the heir. The real heir. Benjamin Cross filed an emergency petition with Suffolk County Probate Court. Contested inheritance. Active murder investigation. Biological heir discovered after 28 years. Judge Patricia Morrison granted the hearing. April 19th, 2026. Catherine, Olivia, and Bryce would all be required to attend. April 19th, 2026. Suffolk County Probate Court. 10 a.m. I walked into that courtroom at 9:55. The gallery was packed. Over 200 people, reporters, Boston socialites, hospital board members. And in the front row, flanked by lawyers, Catherine Brennan in a cream suit, Olivia beside her scrolling through her phone, and Bryce in an orange jumpsuit. They had no idea this wasn't just a probate hearing, it was a trap. Judge Morrison took her seat. Mr. Cross, you've requested emergency resolution of the Andrew Brennan estate. Proceed. Cross stood. Your Honor, Andrew Brennan's 2019 will states his estate goes to biological children only. For 6 years, Catherine and Olivia Brennan operated under the assumption Olivia was sole heir. However, evidence proves a medical error occurred April 15, 1998. 2 infant girls were switched at birth. Grace Hartley is Andrew Brennan's biological daughter. Olivia Brennan is not. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Cross submitted the DNA results. Exhibit A, 99.99% probability. Your Honor, Cross continued, I call Grace Hartley to testify. I was sworn in, took the stand. I told them everything. The pouch, the note, the safety deposit box, Kenneth's investigation, his murder, Patricia's attempted murder, the switched babies, the conspiracy. I spoke calmly, clearly, every word measured. The courtroom was silent. Then cross-played Kenneth's video. My father's face on the screen. His voice. They won't let me live once they know I know. Make them pay. By the time it ended, with Kenneth holding my baby photo, half the gallery was crying. Then cross-played the hidden camera footage. Catherine, Bryce, and Hoffman at that restaurant, planning Kenneth's murder. Clear audio. Catherine. Kenneth Hartley must be eliminated. Bryce. I can arrange access. Catherine. $250,000 upon completion. You could hear people gasping. Catherine's lawyer tried to object. Catherine stood up. This is absurd, she shouted. This girl is a fraud. Mrs. Brennan, Judge Morrison said, sit down. She's after my family's money. She's not my daughter. I looked at her from the witness stand. Calm, cold. You're right. I'm not your daughter. Patricia Hartley is my mother, the woman you tried to murder. Cross presented the wire transfer records, the FBI confession recordings. The evidence kept piling up. Olivia stood. Mom, what is he talking about? Catherine grabbed her arm. Shut up. Say nothing. Federal marshals entered from the back. Detective Wellington followed. Catherine Brennan, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, first-degree murder of Kenneth Hartley, and attempted murder of Patricia Hartley. She screamed, actually screamed. Do you know who I am? Yes, ma'am, Wellington said. You're a murder suspect. They arrested Olivia next. Accessory, conspiracy, wire fraud. Bryce was already in cuffs, but they added charges. First-degree murder. As they led them out, Bryce looked at me. You destroyed this family. No, I said. You did. After the arrests, Judge Morrison delivered her ruling. Based on DNA evidence and credible testimony, this court finds Grace Hartley is the biological daughter of Andrew James Brennan. Per his will, his estate, valued at approximately $350 million, is hereby transferred to Grace Hartley. Olivia Brennan shall receive the $2 million bequest for non-biological children. Catherine Brennan's life estate is revoked. This ruling is final. I'd won. Legally, financially. But all I could think about was my mother lying in a hospital bed 105 miles north. 9 days later, April 28, 2026. I was at Benjamin Cross's office signing paperwork for the Kenneth Hartley Foundation for Patient Safety and Medical Accountability when my phone rang. Portland Hospital. Miss Hartley, you need to come. Your mother is waking up. I drove 90 miles per hour back to Maine. I walked into that ICU room and Mom's eyes were open. Looking at me. Grace. I grabbed her hand. Mom. I'm here. Did you... The pouch. I found it. I found everything. I know the truth. About the switch. About the Brennans, about everything. She started crying. I should have told you sooner. No. You protected me. You and Dad gave me 28 years of love. When someone tried to kill you for it, you still found a way to give me the truth. You saved me, Mom. Kenneth. Is he... I paused. Gentle. He's gone. They killed him. But he made sure I'd find out why. Catherine, Bryce, and Gerald are all in jail. They're never going to hurt us again. She sobbed quietly. Bryce? Bryce sold us out for money. He's not our family anymore. She squeezed my hand. I'm so sorry. Don't be. You gave me the only family that matters. Biology doesn't define us. Love does. I told her about the court hearing, the arrests, the estate, the foundation I was establishing in Dad's name. $150 million dedicated to hospital safety, medical error prevention, and families affected by switched-at-birth cases. "He'd be so proud of you," she said. "I learned from the best." She asked about my name. Whether I was legally Grace Brennan now. "No," I said. "I'm filing paperwork to keep Hartley, permanently. I don't want Brennan." I never did. April 30th, 2026. I helped Mom into my car. We drove north on I-95, away from Boston, away from courtrooms and estates, and people who'd measured love in dollars. Kenneth's brass compass sat on the dashboard, the one he'd given me 2 days before he died. Engraved, "True North," it pointed north. Home. "Where are we going?" Mom asked. "Home. Your house. Our house. Where we belong." We drove in comfortable silence. Mom dozed in the passenger seat. The late April sun streamed through the windshield, and for the first time since March 5th, I felt like I could breathe. They tried to steal my identity, tried to tell me I was Grace Brennan, heir to a fortune, daughter of strangers. They tried to erase Grace Hartley, the girl whose father taught her to ride a bike, whose mother made pancakes every Sunday morning, who grew up in a 3-bedroom ranch and learned that love isn't measured in genetics or bank accounts. They murdered Kenneth Hartley, tried to murder Patricia Hartley, sold out family for money, destroyed lives to protect wealth they'd never earned. But they failed, because you can't kill love with money, you can't silence truth with murder, and you can't take away someone's identity when it's built on 28 years of skinned knees and bedtime stories and unconditional acceptance. Catherine Brennan is my biological mother, but she's a stranger in a jail cell. Patricia Hartley isn't my biological mother, but she's the woman who raised me, protected me, and nearly died to give me the truth. That makes her my mother. The only one that matters. Andrew Brennan left me $350 million. Kenneth Hartley left me something better. A compass that always points home. And home is wherever people love you for who you are, not who you're supposed to be. The trials are scheduled for fall 2026. Catherine faces life without parole. So does Gerald Hoffman. Bryce faces 25 to 40 years. Olivia took a plea deal. She'll testify against her mother in exchange for a reduced sentence. The Kenneth Hartley Foundation is operational, funding hospital safety audits, installing DNA verification systems in maternity wards, providing legal support for families affected by medical errors, every baby that gets verified at birth, every family that gets help, every hospital that fixes their protocols. That's Dad's legacy, not his death. His love. Mom and I are rebuilding, slowly. It's just the two of us now. No Bryce. No biological family who wants to claim me. Just us. And that's enough. People ask me sometimes if I regret finding out. If I wish I'd never opened that pouch. Never learned the truth. I tell them no. Because the truth is what set me free. The truth is what brought justice for my father. The truth is what saved my mother's life and put 3 murderers in prison. And the truth is this. I'm Grace Hartley. I was born that way in every sense that counts. I chose this name. I'll defend it for the rest of my life. If this story meant something to you, if it made you think about family differently, leave a comment. Tell me what family really means to you. Because I learned something through all of this. Family isn't about DNA. It's not about who gave birth to you or whose eyes you have, or what last name appears on your birth certificate. Family is about who stays when things get hard, who fights for you when you can't fight for yourself, who loves you enough to prepare a cloth pouch with evidence and instructions because they know you'll need it someday. Family is about who's there when you wake up. I'm Grace Hartley, and I'm exactly who I'm meant to be.